Hi everyone, this is Joy for Honeybee Stamps. I'm excited to share this card with you today. I have made a chalkboard background totally inspired by Tim Holtz, and I'm using the wood frame builder die to make this look like a chalkboard. So I'm starting with some white cardstock, and I'm coming in with antique linen distress oxide ink and a blender brush, and I'm just going to ink up this background. I'm not worried about it being even because I'm going to be doing some die cutting with the wood frame builder, and I want these to look like natural planks of wood. So I'm starting with the antique linen, and then I'm going to come in with the frayed burlap to give it a different color. So the products that I'm using to create this card are the wood frame builder, the Smooch stamp, the S.W.A.K stamp, a sentiment from Paradise Bloom stamp, and a sentiment from the Tropical Tweets stamp. So once I get this finished inking up, I'm going to line up my 4 die cuts from the wood frame builder, and they're different sizes. This card measures 5 by 5.5, so not quite a perfect square. You could make it a perfect square, but I just needed this much room for the sentiments that I am using. So I'm going to tape that down and run that through my die cut machine. Now that they're die cut, I'm coming in with a smaller blender brush from Honeybee Stamps, and I am using the Frayed Burlap Distress Oxide ink. And this is where I'm adding some aging. This is where it'll look like natural wood instead of just some yellow pieces of wood. This is also a great color combination for sand. Just that's an FYI side note. But anyways, I'm going to finish inking up these edges, just really kind of giving it the old kind of wood look, again, a natural wood feel. I'm going to do that for all of the pieces. I'm doing around all of the edges, the sides, and the top and the bottom. Once I get done with that, we are going to do this chalkboard effect. Like I said, this is totally inspired by Tim Holtz. He did this for some holiday cards in 2020, and ever since I saw that, I just knew I needed to make a chalkboard card. In my MISTI, I have a piece of the black matte alcohol cardstock. I've prepped that with an anti-static powder tool. I already have my images in my MISTI, and I'm using VersaMark clear embossing ink. Any clear embossing ink works good. I will be using the frosted crystal embossing powder for the bottom 2 images and the white embossing powder for the top 2 images. If my top 2 images were larger, I would use the frosted crystal on all of them because that's what gives it the actual chalkboard look or the chalk writing look. But because those images are so tiny, you really couldn't read it, and I'll show you that example in just a minute. But I'm laying down that frosted crystal on the bottom images, coming in with the white embossing powder on the top. And once that's done, then I will heat that through until it's melted. But I'll show you here in just a second on one that I had already previously done, that the frosted crystal and the chalkboard look on the top, you just couldn't read that small text. So now when heating the frosted crystal, you only want to heat it till it's just barely melted. You want this to have a lot of texture to it because that is what's going to grab the chalk. So once that's cooled down, then I'm going to take this piece of white chalk, and I'm just going to start rubbing over the frosted crystal embossing powder. And I'm just going over the top part too because I kind of want this chalk everywhere. Then I'm coming in with my finger and just blending that in and pushing it into the open areas of the textured frosted crystal embossing powder. And I also want this on my cardstock. Then I'm going to come in with a paper towel and just lightly wipe stuff away. If you wipe it off of your embossed images, you can just come back in like I'm doing here with some more chalk, and then just kind of buff that away. I really wanted to have quite a contrast, so I came in with a dry paintbrush and I'm just buffing away some excess chalk from around the images that you can see here what a difference that makes. Again, I really want these images to pop. I really want them to be quite bright compared to the background. Now, one of the mistakes I made, but it was actually quite fixable, was I don't think I put enough. Well, I did not put enough chalk onto those images to start off with. So you want to set your cardstock or your chalk on your cardstock with some water. So I'm just going to spritz some water on here, bring my heat gun to it, and just gently dry it, making sure to not overheat my embossing powder. And this is where I noticed, okay, so my stamped images, they're not super bright with chalk. So I'm going to come back and just gently go over those images again. And as you can see here, it is making a huge difference. I'm kind of filling in where you could see the black cardstock through those stamped and embossed images. And then I'm just buffing that out with my finger. And once I get it really how I want it to look, I'm going to come back in and spray it one more time, dry it, and then this looks fantastic. I love how this background turned out. Now, the wood frame builder die, I have die cut about 8 more pieces, 2 of each of the sides of all 4 sides. And I'm going to glue those together with some liquid glue because I want this frame to have dimension. Now, I just have my image lined up around the frame pieces around my cardstock. Nothing's glued down. So I'm going to glue down the coordinating die pieces that we inked up to the black die pieces. So this will be 3 layers thick now, so we will have some dimension. I'm going to adhere all of those, and then I will adhere it to this background piece. Now you can see that there's some excess on the top and the bottom. I will trim that off once I get all of my frame builder pieces in place. So I'm lining it up, making sure my distance on the top and the bottom between my stamped images is equal. And then I'm going to come in with that bottom piece, and I'm using some liquid glue to glue this down because it gives me a little bit of working time. I can kind of slide my pieces if they're a little bit crooked and making sure that everything works. So I did that bottom piece, I'm doing the 2 side pieces, and now I'm coming in with the top, and again I'll trim off all of the excess. Now I need to make a card base, so I'm using some craft cardstock, and it's measured 5.5 by 10, and 5 by 11. And then I folded that, or I creased that at 5.5. I used my bone folder to make that crease and just folded that to make my card base and adhered that to the front. Now I'm coming in and stamping my sentiment that says love you on the inside with black ink. That is from the Paradise Bloom stamp set. And I want to add some hearts to this, so I'm coming in with some tree hugger hearts and kiss me clay hearts. I thought a little pop of red would be a lot of fun. I think this has actually turned out to be a great masculine card to give to your honey for your anniversary, and this pop of red does not make it girly, it just adds a little something extra to the card. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere down these hearts. These tree hugger hearts are some of my favorite hearts from Honeybee Stamps. I think they are so cute and they come in so many different sizes. Now this card is complete, and I think anyone would love to get this type of card, a guy or a girl, but I think it really works well as a masculine card for an anniversary. I want to thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I will be back soon. Bye.